We now have Mike Danzik coming up in a bit here, and we're so excited to have you back with us this year. You've been a speaker at this conference many times before. After 24 years of state service, Mike Danzik recently retired from the California Department of Education's Nutrition Services Division. Let me just plug this in. I've worked in other states. California Department of Education Nutrition Services is by far the best in the country. I will say that through and through. We have the best team of people working behind us and helping us through our days. Mike still keeps apprised on all things school nutrition related. While at the State Department, Mike's responsibilities included statewide school meal marketing efforts, as well as training on the National School Lunch and School Breakfast program. Mike was the subject matter expert for state and federal competitive food rules and local school wellness policy implementation. Mike holds a master's in public health nutrition and is a registered dietitian. So please give a warm welcome to Mike.
Okay. I'm going to run over time because that's what I always do. Before we get started, I have another raffle ticket, and the winner for this prize is Cherry from Lompoc. Bing, 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 bing. Congratulations. Okay. So, as Hannah mentioned, I've been here a number of times, probably 6 times. So I've been able to attend and present, and I always talk this summit up. This is the best model I have seen anywhere across the nation for schools to come together as a group, as administrators, as food service staff, as nurses, as other health folks, maybe parents, to come and talk about school wellness and school wellness policies. So with that, I applaud all of you. You are all very inspirational. I could not do what you do every day, so I'm glad that I am able to support you in what you do every day. One of the things I thought about is the summit is 12 years old, so we have a preteen in the house. So if you are around and you want to say things like, I know, or gosh, just do it. Okay. And thank you, Darlene. And she's in the back. And Allison, I think, just stepped out. Again, very, very inspirational. I am going to inspire you all today to love rules and regulations. Okay, so a topic near and dear to my heart for 20 some odd years has been competitive foods and beverages. I was at the water cooler maybe at the right time, maybe at the wrong time, way back when all of this really started, 2001, and I got this little assignment, and it has blossomed now into this amazing just health and wellness, and from all aspects of foods and beverages sold on campuses. And now we have this wellness policy that can really lock things in. So I'm going to take time today, right now, to talk about what a competitive food or beverage is and some rules around it. So we will talk about some names and definitions, school classifications, a little bit about the state and federal rules, fundraising, marketing and advertising, record keeping, the administrative review, and provide you with some resources, and then answer some questions. This is a lot. I don't expect you to walk away with a lot of knowledge, but we have so many resources that when this stuff comes up in your schools, you'll be able to go to that resource and determine what's right, what's wrong, what's nice, what's not nice. Okay, names and definitions. So we talk about this term competitive food. It's a term that was created by the United States Department of Agriculture long time ago. And these are foods that compete with the school meal. Now, you've probably also heard the term smart snacks in school. Yeah? Okay. This is a term that the federal government created. It's sort of their nickname for their rules on competitive foods. California also has rules, but we don't have a nice nickname. There might be maybe a raffle for that later. I don't know. I like to use the term competitive foods versus smart snacks because in my brain, I think smart snacks and I think federal rules. I don't think California rules. So I like to use more something that's a little bit more encompassing. And then the last term, which I'm not going to get into too much today, is something called a non-program food, which is really a food or beverage sold by food service that's not part of the school meal. So examples of that could catering. I heard catering. Yes. Adult meals. Yes. A la carte. Yes. So competitive foods are non-program foods. Okay, that's kind of why I bring this up. All right, here's some terminology. And again, if you can leave with just some of this information, that's wonderful. So a competitive food is a food or beverage that is sold. We will talk about, later on, we'll talk about foods given away. That's also another hot topic, but a competitive food is a food that is sold specifically to a student on school campus during the school day outside of the reimbursable meal. And do you think these are the only definitions? No, 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 no. So there's also definitions from the definition. So under competitive food rules, a school campus is any area or property that is under the jurisdiction of the school or the district that is accessible to students. Okay, so teacher's lounge, usually not accessible to students. So that would not be considered school campus. School day, a little bit different than your school day. From midnight before to 30 minutes after the end of the school day. So it kind of goes overnight. My joke is it's because kindergartners like to party till like 2 a.m. I've recycled that joke many, many times. But I think what it really does is it helps prevent when kids come onto campus before the actual official school day starts, that there's no coffee carts or other things that are being sold on the school campus. Sold. This is probably the most difficult word to kind of wrap your brain around. But the definition is the exchange of food or beverages for money coupons or vouchers or for the food itself, or order forms when any part of the exchange occurs on campus. Don't worry about that definition. Just think about it this way. There's two parts to sold. Okay? The first part is the exchange of the money for a coupon or voucher or order form. We're going to go through some examples as well. Okay, that's part one. Then there's an exchange of food. That's kind of part two. And where it gets a little confusing is both of these have to occur on campus with the student during the school day, but they don't necessarily have to happen even on the same day. And I'll go over some examples on how that happens. You guys can probably think through how some of your fundraisers work. Okay? Okay, so with that information, I wanted to do some learning checks, make sure we're all on the same page. So scenario number one, and this happens again on most campuses. Student on a high school campus approaches a vending machine, says hello. On school campus during the lunchtime, they add $1 to the machine, they get their bag of chips, and they walk away. Think through the 5 criteria, okay, to determine if the competitive food rules apply. Is the item being sold? Good. Yes. Is it sold to a student? Yes. On school campus? Yes. During the school day? Okay. Outside the reimbursable meal program. So now you know that the competitive food rules apply. All right? Good. And now we'll get a little bit more difficult in some of these situations. Parent-Teacher Association is holding a multicultural day on a K-6 campus. Parents are cooking items at home and bringing them to school. That's a whole issue in and of itself that I'm not going to get into today. The items are being given away to students and staff, and it takes place at 12:30. All right, thinking through the 5 criteria. Are these items being sold? No. So you can actually stop right there, and you don't have to worry about reviewing the competitive food rules because they don't apply according to the state and federal requirements. maybe they apply according to your wellness policy, okay? Okay, so we'll just keep going because we'll just go through. So, but there is a student involved. It is on school campus. It is during the school day and outside the reimbursable meal. But all 5 criteria have to meet the rules in order for the competitive food rules to apply. Last one. The robotics club at a middle school is fundraising by selling candy bars. Each student from the club receives a case of candy bars at lunchtime. So far in this scenario, has it broken any of the 5 competitive food rules? Mm-hmm. And so the students have just received the foods. They haven't sold anything yet. What's that? Oh, and we'll get to intent. Okay. We will get to intent on this slide. Okay. So then the students are instructed to take the case home and sell all the candy bars to friends and neighbors around their neighborhood. Then they bring the money back and give it to the adult who's in charge of the fundraiser. So in this full scenario, if it happened this way, does this meet the competitive food rules? No, because where are they being sold? Off and away from school campus. Okay, good. But what can go wrong in this situation? Or probably what has gone wrong on some of your campuses in this situation? Yes, okay, so exactly. So middle schoolers that get a case at lunch, how many are they going to have by the time they leave that campus that day, right? I didn't have any. Okay, so things to think through, situations to think through. What steps could the district do in this situation? Let's say they've agreed that this fundraiser is going to occur. What could they do to ensure or better ensure that rules are not going to be broken? Okay, so instead of giving them at lunchtime, make sure they pick up 30 minutes after school on the campus. Good. Not sell candy bars. Good. Okay. Anything else? Yeah. Okay. They can also set very strict rules on if they do find that, because, these fundraisers are, they're not required, So, if students are not going to be able to follow the rules once they're given the rules, maybe they lose that privilege. Okay, so those are different things. I do have a little bit of time. Is there something that is occurring on your guys' school campuses that you'd like to address? Because if it's happening on your campus, it's probably happening on somebody else's. Yes?
So once a year, our PFA does sell donuts in the morning for a fundraiser.
Okay. And like the PT, like a parent?
Yeah.
Okay. So the situation is that a parent does sell donuts on campus in the morning? Who are they selling them to? The students. Okay. Right. Okay, so that is now that now that we kind of are on the same page for the rules, that is not right, unless those donuts meet the requirements, and we know that those donuts meet the requirements, right? So that's something that can be addressed fairly easily, quickly, and almost immediately. Okay, so that is not an allowable. Because if they're selling them to students on school campus during the school day, even though the school hasn't started its day, it's still during the school day. Yep. I'm sorry, say that again?
Technically, they're selling it to the parents.
Okay, but then the parents sometimes turn around and, yeah. So technically they are selling to the parents, but then are the parents turning around and giving those donuts to the kids? Okay, and again, these aren't things that are hard and fast rules in regulations and laws. These are things, these are nuances that come up that you can address in your wellness policies. Okay, yeah.
So my son's school does Jamba Juice after school.
Okay.
How does, if it meets health requirements, does it count or not?
So is it like a Jamba Juice truck comes onto campus, or they get them? Okay. Okay.
Directly after school on Wednesdays, they do a Jamba.
Okay. So let's say there's a Jamba Juice fundraiser. Okay, PTA directly after school. So as students are leaving their classrooms, it's still on campus. So does that break any of the 5 criteria? So are they so does it meet the SOL? It meets the SOL, it meets to students. Does it meet school day? Yep, because they have to wait 30 minutes. There is a reason why we put in 30 minutes after the school day, not directly after the bell rings. So sounds like that is a non-compliant sale, unless the actual Jamba Juice meets all of the nutrition standards. Yep. Yep. So then it would be allowable, again, under state and federal requirements, maybe not your local wellness policy, but yeah, that would not break any of the rules. Okay. One more. Yeah.
So when I first came to our district, I was told that the campuses have 3 kind of free-for-all days where they could sell whatever they wanted. I was also under an AR review the first year that I started, and I could not find anywhere in the rules or regulations that was actually true. But did that used to be in place, or?
Okay, so the scenario is a group or somebody came to food service. Are you food service?
Yes.
Okay, and said 2 or 3 days out of the year, we can sell anything we want on school campus. And that is incorrect. That blanket statement is incorrect. I can see by some of the rules it does get confusing, unfortunately. Why is it so hard to feed kids? So there is never a time where anything goes during the school day, okay? Some of the federal requirements may allow it, but the state of California never allows it, okay? So if there is something that meets those 5 criteria, that item has to meet the standards, okay? Great, okay. Good situations. We are now moving on to what I call school classifications. And again, it gets a little twisted here, but we have kind of 2 sets of classifications. We have public non-charter schools, which is most of your schools, and then we have charter schools and private schools as well. I'm assuming, how many of you have charter schools in your district? Okay. So, I won't get into the weeds, but public non-charter schools must follow both state and federal requirements. Charter schools and private schools only actually have to follow the federal requirements. Well, I'm not going to say that either. I'm going to get myself in trouble. So it could potentially be an issue in your district if a charter school really fully understands the rules and they say, that doesn't apply to me. Ideally, though, we want to be consistent, right, on all of our school campuses. And I think, hopefully common sense prevails. And I've never really had, that I can think of, a complaint about a various charter school doing something different than a public school that might be right down the street, okay? But rules are rules, and I'm a rule follower, and so this is one of the rules. I can explain why at break if you want to really geek out on rules and regulations, but I'll just kind of leave it at that. Okay. Updates. So actually, let me take a work back. So this is important, right, for us when we do our review and we come onto various campuses to see what's going on. If it's a charter school campus, we can't apply California rules to it. You guys can, but we can't, okay? So it's important to know the where before you kind of act on what's allowable and what's not allowable. All right, some updates. As you probably know, the feds updated their regulations last year, created some differences. So what the federal updates are, they took out the requirement for trans fat. And the reason is the US does not allow synthetic trans fats in foods anymore. So why have a requirement for it if it doesn't exist? Makes sense. Unfortunately, and I think I get this too, or I'll get to this, California still has on the books that you have to check for trans fat in your competitive foods, okay? It should be 0, but you still have to check it. Added sugar in milk. This is new for school meals as well as competitive foods. So now there is an added sugar requirement for milk if it's being sold competitively. And the dreaded bean dip exemption. I love to be in the back rooms when some of this stuff gets written. But if you're selling bean dip a la carte or competitively, the feds say it could be exempt from the total fat standard. It has to meet the other 5, but it can be exempt from the total fat standard. California would have to add that to its rules for it to be applicable to. How many of you sell bean dip a la carte? Yes, that's what I thought. Okay. State updates. These came from some new laws that went into effect, as well as some updated regulations. So many of you may have seen this as well. So there are a number of food dyes that will not be allowed in foods that are sold competitively. And then there are also some food additives that won't be allowed. And these take effect January 1 of 27 and December 31st of 27. So again, they do this to allow food manufacturers to kind of catch up. And then because the feds added the added sugar in milk, we also added that to be consistent. So those are some of the state changes. Some of the differences, and again, this comes back to classification. Are you on a public non-charter school campus? Or are you on a charter school campus? So the state is stricter when entrees are sold by food service. And again, I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty details, but there are certain situations when if a la carte entree is being sold by food service, we have stricter rules than the feds do. And then grain-only entrees at breakfast is another area where we are stricter. The feds allow a grain-only entree when sold a la carte to be either enriched or whole grain. We require it to be whole grain. And I think most everybody probably does that anyway. We do not allow caffeine at any grade level. The feds allow caffeine at the high school level. As far as alternative beverages besides milk, juice, and water, we only allow electrolyte replacement beverages and flavored waters. The feds allow low-calorie beverages. So that could actually include diet sodas, diet Monster drinks, and so on, okay? And student organization sales. We have stricter rules when a student organization sells foods and beverages. This rule was created in 1976, and it's still on the books. Okay, the feds do not have any rules that dictate what a group can sell. It's all about the food and the beverages. So other differences. So again, trans fat. I talked about that a little bit. I think we'll probably clean that up in the next couple of years. I hope. The bean dip exemption. We talked about that, and the food dyes and additives. Those are all required state requirements. Okay, or not allowed by state requirements. I like to bring up second meals because that is a question that I get a lot. A second meal can be sold to students. They are considered non-program foods, and all competitive foods are non-program foods, so they're all competitive foods now. Even though that second meal meets the meal standards and the meal requirements, they don't get reimbursement for it, so it is a non-reimbursable meal. So now each of the items have to meet the competitive food standards. Okay, remember, I'm just the messenger. The retired messenger who comes back from our punishment. Okay, all right. So that's something on second meals. Fundraising, again, a very, very hot topic. California does allow fundraising. We do not allow exempted fundraisers, okay? The feds say that each state can set a limited number of fundraisers that do not have to meet any of the standards. We have set that number to 0, okay? So any food sold on campus to students during the school day, they have to meet the standards, okay? And again, we get these, it gets confusing because the feds say something sometimes and we say something else, okay? So, moving on to marketing and advertising. So there are both state and federal requirements for that. So the gist is the only foods and beverages that can be marketed on school campus during the school day are those foods that meet the competitive food rules. Okay? So, marketing and advertising, signs, table drapes, gift cards, those kinds of things could be considered marketing on campus if they occur on campus. What else was I going to say? Shoot. I lost my train of thought. Okay. Going on to record keeping. So this is a federal requirement. So it says specifically the district. It doesn't say food service. It says the district is responsible for ensuring that the various groups that sell competitive foods keep the records necessary, especially so when we come on campus and do a review, we can easily see what's being sold. We can see the nutrition facts label, we can see the front of the product, and we can help evaluate whether they're allowable or not. So we always suggest to have district administration set up a process or a procedure for this. So getting the PTA president involved, getting the ASB directors involved, getting food service, if you guys sell a la carte, involved in a process. I put my paperwork together, and I put it in this folder, and I put that folder in the file. So again, when we come on campus, we could say, what competitive foods are being sold by whom? And they can just, they, okay? All right, we doing good so far? How are we doing on time? Okay. So, administrative reviews. Who's up for a review this year? All right, see? Exciting.
And the procurement review on the double.
I always say we're like the IRS where we'll come in and audit you, but unlike the IRS, if we find issues, we're not just going to push you away. We're actually going to help you with training, technical assistance, whatever's needed in order to correct those, okay? So under the administrative review for competitive foods, there's no fiscal action. We're not going to take money away from you, okay, if you're found out of compliance, not if your district or your schools are found out of compliance. We are required to provide the technical assistance necessary. There might be a corrective action plan that you'll have to agree to that we work through with you. This is always the funnest part, this bullet. We have the authority to withhold reimbursement from you, I know, if there are repeated or egregious non-compliance issues. And then they get, well, what if it's the PTA? We have no power over them. And we understand that. Unfortunately, the USDA only has power over you guys. And would that wake up your administration? If you got your reimbursement withheld for a month or two, that would be an issue. So that's a thing. What we do when we come onto campus is we will review the applicable state and federal competitive food standards. Okay, remember, if we're on a charter school, we just look at the feds. If we're on a public non-charter school, we look at both. We would only look on the selected school sites for that AR, and we would only look for the month and day of review. For food service, you guys provide your 1-week menu to your field staff. So we would look at that 1-week menu, determine if any of those items are a la carte, and look at some of those for review. Okay? For the other groups, we would get their list of items that they sold throughout the year, and we would take 10% of those and review them for compliance. If not, yep. Sorry. These will be available, I hope. All right. See, we are problem solving today. Okay, are we good? Okay. You bet. So if non-compliance is identified, we do have the authority to check more than 10% of the items or go broader than the month of review. Okay? And again, all of this is to help you all stay in compliance. Okay? Again, best practices, I kind of talked about this. Share this rule with your district administration. encourage the district to develop some kind of process or procedures so it makes it easy for you guys and for us. All right, so we've talked a lot about rules and requirements and all these things. I wanted to kind of just go through a linear step-by-step of if you have a product in front of you, what steps do you take to determine compliance? Okay, because it does get a little weird. So we have on our website a quick reference resource, bookmark it, or send it to folks, send it to your PTA folks, send it to your student organization folks, because that is the culmination of all of the rules. So you don't have to worry if something's federal, something's state. You will have to think about your local. But if you're on a, say, public non-charter school campus, you open that resource, and that tells you all of the requirements for a food or a beverage for elementary, middle, or high. Okay? So easy peasy. You first want to determine if it meets all 5 criteria, because again, you don't want to go through all this work. If it doesn't meet one of the criteria, it's not going to, the rules are not going to apply. Again, is it a public non-charter or a charter? Because that will tell you which quick reference card or resource to use. Is it elementary, middle, or high? You can go through the quick reference resource to find your grade levels. And there are definitions for elementary, middle, and high, which are also included on your quick reference resource. And then, is it a food or a beverage? If it's a food, again, this is linear reading all the way down this quick reference resource. So if it's a food, is it an entree or a snack? Because they have different requirements. Is it sold by food service or another entity? Because they have different requirements. And then now you have that item, and now you know exactly where in the quick reference cards you need to look at to meet the general food standard. Really what that means is it a food group food? Or if it's a mixed food, does the first ingredient a food group food? Okay? Sugar is not a food group food. And then, does it meet up to the 6 nutrition standards? Total fat, trans fat still should be 0. Saturated fat, sugar calories, and sodium. So easy. So those are the steps for a food. Beverages are much easier than foods. Is it marketed or labeled as an allowable beverage category? So if you have Izzy, thank you. Have you seen, well, what are some of the items that are sold? What are some of the beverages that are sold on your campuses, a la carte or competitively? Like Izzy Juice, none of them? Okay. You know what? That's a great way to not even worry about this, everything I've said so far. We do not sell. Popsicles? Okay, but that would be considered a food? Yep. But that's a really good question. So the definition of beverage is a potable liquid. If the popsicle sits out too long, I guess it turns into a beverage. Okay? All right. So an item that said, what if they give the popsicles away? Great question. She's a plant. So if they give the popsicles away, are they sold to students? No, so the competitive food rules would not apply. Okay? So let's say you have Izzy, which is a juice. It will say on the front, juice. Then you know it must fit into the juice category. If it comes with marketing materials, and this happens a lot with things that have electrolytes in it, the front of the label may not say electrolyte beverage or something like that, but maybe the marketing materials do. It's a little loosey-goosey for how you look at a beverage and determine which category it belongs in. But again, that is step 1. And then it has to meet the criteria under that category. So if it is an Izzy, it's considered a juice. Does it meet the criteria for juice? It may meet the criteria for something else, but it doesn't matter because it's marketed or labeled as a juice. Okay. One slide on student organizations. Again, only applies to public non-charter schools. And the definition of student organization is a group of students that are not associated with the curriculum or academics of the school. So these are the extracurricular groups. So a Spanish club is a student organization because it's outside the curriculum. A Spanish class, however, is not a student organization. And this is important because there are 6 extra rules, if you weren't confused enough, that apply only to student organizations. Okay, and again, this rule is from 1976. I'll tell you, in my 20 years, I tried really hard to make the changes to this. You see the bruise? It's still there. All right, wrapping up, we got some great resources. We have a competitive food and beverage web page. We have the quick reference resources. That's usually the go-to for most folks. Okay, we have both public, non-charter, and charter. We do have some other, so in your packet, you have a resource list which is more extensive than what I showed here. There is a email. How many pen pals do I have in here today? Through local school wellness, or excuse me, competitive food emails. Okay, great. Just a few. So if you are confused, if the PTA folks are confused, email us, okay? Online calculators. There is one, Alliance for a Healthier Generation, so it's called the Smart Snacks Calculator. It was created at the federal level, so it only includes federal standards. So a public non-charter school cannot use this calculator because they might get incorrect information. And then the question is, well, what about public charter or public and non-charter schools? Is there an online calculator? And I'll say there used to be. Through Project Lean, which is unfortunately now defunct, we are looking at trying to build one in-house. We are state government. Be patient. Okay? So for now, really your quick reference cards are your go-to. I know that there's some online calculators kind of floating around in the Ethernet. I would be very wary because the rules change and they're not always updated. So go to the quick reference cards or give us a jingle. That's probably your best bet. Now I give you homework. So and again, not necessary, good conversational piece at dinner tonight. So this will challenge you to, if you have your phone or a laptop, to pull up the quick reference cards and take a look-see, and if you can answer all the questions, you got a pretty good command of how they're organized, okay? For those of you folks who are looking for professional standards today, here's that information. And I believe are we out of time? No more questions. Now, I'll be around, so. Oh, okay. Good. Yes.
So we have an after-school program.
Okay.
Does that have to be, if somebody's going to sell something, does that have to be 30 minutes after they leave, since it's right after dismissal?
Great question. So the issue or the question is there's an after-school program that probably starts directly after the bell rings to let the major groups. So when that starts, are we yet 30 minutes after the school day? We're not. So if there is something that is going to be sold to them within that 30 minutes, it must comply. After the 30 minutes, according to state and federal rules, how many times have I said that today? They could purchase anything they want, unless your local school wellness policy redefines what a school day is. And you absolutely have that authority. So it could be the end of the last after-school program. Yes?
What about foods that are like popsicles or ice cream or pizza or popcorn that is a reward or an award for something that was sold? But the food wasn't sold, that's just the
Ooh, okay. Okay. So it really fits. So the question is, what about, so maybe like a fundraiser, if you sell the most candy bars, you get a case of candy bars. So right? Let's just load them all up with candy bars. So that would fit into the foods given away, not food sold category. Yep. And so when I talk about wellness policy requirements a little later, we will absolutely get into foods given away and what the requirements are for that. Okay. Probably one more. Don't be shy. I know you got them. Yeah.
What about is it actual money purchased? Or like if kids get rewarded coupons and then they can go to this store or whatever? And
Great question. So sometimes classroom rewards will give points, vouchers, and you get a number of them, and then you get to go to whatever, the treasure box or the student store and pick out potentially a food. So those are considered given away because there's no exchange of money, okay? So that would fit into the rules for foods given away. But happens quite often in schools. Great. Okay. Thank you. Hope you learned something today.
Thank you so much, Mike. Very much appreciated. What a wealth of knowledge he is, and we'll be looking forward to hearing from you later as well. And I think that just all kind of proves to us that we can use our wellness policies to make these rules even stronger. So if there is a little gap somewhere where you're seeing that popsicles with red food dye are being delivered to your warehouse, I just heard about that last week, you can write that into your wellness policy, that this is not permitted to be given as a reward to students. So, take that wellness policy and use it as a tool of your own or a weapon of your own, if you will. We are going to take another nice break, a little 10-minute break, and we are going to meet back here at 2:45. Okay, thank you all, and have a good little break.